We're here today on Memorial Day to celebrate our fallen soldiers, and over 240 soldiers in Atlanta, Fulton County died during the Vietnam War. So this is an opportunity for us to remember them. They have not been forgotten. Also, as part of that, we're planning on building some type of monument for them here in Piedmont Park. So I've been working along with some of the Vietnam veterans, because those are the veterans that are in my era, okay? And so we want to make sure we recognize them. They were the only group of soldiers that really was not recognized when they came back out of the war, when they came home. And I think they really felt as though they had been forgotten, that nobody appreciated the service that they provided overseas, and we do appreciate their service. I come from a family of service people. My father was a World War II vet. I also have two cousins that were in the Army and in the Navy. So I have a high level of respect for the veterans who really have kept us free, have been able to allow us the freedoms that we have here in this country. I've traveled to many places around the world, and I always kiss the ground when I come back to America, because I understand that we have more freedoms than anyone else, in spite of the struggles that we have. Now, we still need to fight for our rights, but we have that freedom that no one else has here in America.
The Atlanta City Council approves the budget for fiscal year 2022, which begins July 1st. The general fund budget totals approximately $710 million. The council also approves the millage rate for the fiscal year and legislation adopting the personnel paper. The fiscal year 2022 budget includes no increase in the city's millage rate, increased funding through Operation Shield Camera to maintain and purchase public safety cameras and license plate readers, additional funding to help support operations of the Office of the Inspector General, and an increased budget for the Department of Transportation to install speed humps. The council approves a communication from Mayor Keisha Lance Bottoms appointing Rodney Bryant to serve as chief of the Atlanta Police Department. The council greenlights an ordinance requesting the Department of Parks and Recreation and the Atlanta Police Department complete a joint study to determine funding for the number of retired police officers who would be required through the recapture program to patrol Atlanta parks. The council says yes to a resolution establishing a City of Atlanta-Fulton County Joint Committee consisting of representatives from the City of Atlanta and Fulton County to develop a framework to assist the Fulton County Sheriff with severe overcrowding at the Fulton County Jail. The council approves a resolution declaring the Atlanta Spa mass shooting on March 16, 2021 as a disaster in accordance with United States Internal Revenue Code Section 139, designate the Asian Americans Advancing Justice Atlanta chapter as a financial vehicle for victims of disaster relief, and authorize the mayor or her designee to enter into any agreements necessary to effectuate this designation. For more recently approved legislation, please visit our website, citycouncil.atlantagA.gov. This has been your Atlanta City Council Legislative Minute. Thanks for joining us for this edition of Stay at Home Connect. I'm Phyllis Jackson. Dr. Anthony Fauci is warning against the spread of a highly contagious, more severe form of the COVID-19 variant that was first detected in India.
In the UK, the Delta variant is the rapidly emerging as the dominant variant, greater than 60%. It is replacing the B117. The peak transmission in my conversations with and the data associated with the UK, when talking to their health authorities, the transmission is peaking in the younger group of 12 to 20-year-olds, namely that group that we're concerned about here, about making sure they get vaccinated. And as I mentioned before, there's poor protection after a single dose of either the mRNA or AZ vaccine.
During a White House briefing, Fauci said the Delta variant accounts for 6% of cases in the United States. Here in Georgia, there have been just under 20 cases reported. According to a White House task force report, Georgia ranks 45th for COVID vaccinations. Fauci says it's important for all Americans to get vaccinated. The White House has a goal of vaccinating 70% of the U.S. population by July 4th. The largest vaccination site in the Southeast closes its doors. Mercedes-Benz Stadium shut down its community vaccination center earlier this week. Over 300,000 vaccinations were administered at the center. Johnson & Johnson says it wants to extend the shelf life of its single-dose vaccine. The company is conducting stability testing. The current vaccine can live up to 3 months, longer if it's frozen.
Now, therefore, we, the members of the Atlanta City Council, on behalf of the citizens of the city of Atlanta, who hereby proclaim this day, May the 22nd, 2021, as Tom Murphy Day in our fair city. In witness thereof, we cause the seal of the city of Atlanta to be hereunto affixed. Congratulations.
We're here today to celebrate Tom Murphy and 40 years of his restaurant Murphy's in the heart of Virginia Highland. That's unusual these days to have a business owner, locally owned, lives in the area for that period of time. And, you know, he serves a fantastic meal. It's a place people come for baby showers, for brunches, for weddings, and he's been tremendous in giving back to the community as well. I'm just so excited that Murphy's, Tom says that they're back to their pre-COVID business. People are out and about. He's making it a safe place to eat. I've been back here, and it's one of my favorite places, and I hope people will get out as they feel comfortable and back into their local restaurants.
This is Councilmember Shepherd. Do you all hear me?
Good afternoon, Madam
Yes,
Chair.
we can. We hear you.
Okay, I just want to make sure that we were not muted. All right, thank you. This is Councilmember Shepherd. I'm Chair of Public Safety and Legal Administration Committee, and I want to welcome everybody to our meeting today, our remote meeting today. So with that, we will officially call the meeting to order. We'll start with the introduction of members. Ms. Lindo, can you do a roll call?
Yes, Madam Chair. We have Councilmember Dustin Hillis,
Present.
Councilmember Andrea Boone,
Present.
Councilmember Michael Julian Bond,
Here.
Councilmember Carla Smith,
Here.
Councilmember Amir Faroki,
He's not present today. He's absent today.
Councilmember. Madam Chair, we do have a quorum members are present. We also have with us Council President Felicia Moore.
Yeah.
And Councilmember Winslow's here.
Okay, did she call your name? I thought she called your name, Ms. Winslow.
Yeah,
But anyway, thank you.
Oh, I
Okay.
didn't hear it. Okay, all right.
All right. So, and also, again, thank you, President Moore, for being here. And we also have our law department here. Amber Robinson from the law department is also president with us. So with that, we will now move to, if you could please read the remote meeting statement, Ms. Lindo.
Yes, Madam Chair. Good afternoon. Today's Public Safety and Legal Administration Committee meeting will be conducted remotely as advertised in accordance with Georgia Code Section 50-14-1. The meeting will be conducted in conformance with Robert Rules of Order and the Rules of Council as authorized by the City Code. The public may access the meeting conference bridge toll-free by dialing 877-579-6743 and entering conference ID number 831-599-1256. This information was also provided on the Friday, June 11, 2021 public meeting notice. The public may also view the meeting on Channel 26, the Council's homepage at citycouncil.atlanta.ga.gov, Facebook and Twitter pages at ATL Council, and the Council's YouTube channel. All presentations are available on the Atlanta City Council website on the Public Safety and Legal Administration Committee presentations page. Today's meeting agenda was also published and made available on Friday, June 11th via the city's website at atlantacity.ga.iqm2.com. In addition, the public is able to submit comments via voicemail at 404-330-6022 yesterday between the hours of 4 p.m. and 7 p.m. These comments will be played during the public comment portion of this meeting. All persons present on the remote council meeting conference bridge are requested to please mute your phones and speakers. Meeting participants wishing to speak must be acknowledged by the committee chair. Amendments, substitutes, and any informational documents have been distributed to committee members beforehand. Thank you all in advance for your cooperation.
All right, thank you, Ms. Lindo. We will now go to the adoption of the agenda. We're going to make a motion to amend the agenda. We have 2 walk-in papers that we need to add to the agenda today. And so I'd like to make a motion to add the 2 walk-in papers to the agenda today.
Second, Hillis.
Thank you. So that's a motion and a second by motion by me and second by Mr. Hillis. Ms. Lindo, we can ask for a vote. I would tell you I am not logged in. I cannot seem to get logged in, and I'm waiting on somebody to help me log in. So I made the motion, but go ahead. Are we ready for the vote, Ms. Lindo?
Hold on, Madam Chair. This is a motion to amend to add 2 walk-ins, correct? Yes. The vote is open. The vote is open, Madam Chair.
Okay, the vote is open. Please vote. Ms. Winslow, how are you voting? Ms. Winslow?
Yes, I'm here. I got knocked off.
Okay, are you voting yes for we had made a motion to amend the agenda with 2 walk-ins. Are you voting yes or no?
Yeah, I'm voting yes. Thank you, Madam Chair.
All right, Mr. Bond, how are you voting?
Aye.
Thank you, Mr. Bond. Anybody else need to vote verbally?
The vote is closed, Madam Chair. That's 6 yeas, 0 nays. This item has been amended. I mean, the amendment is before. I guess we should vote now to approve as amended.
Yeah, I'll make the motion to approve as amended. Is there a second?
Second.
That's Mr. Bond. Okay. We're ready for the vote, Ms. Lindo.
One moment, Madam Chair. The vote is open.
All right, Ms. Winslow, how do you vote?
In favor.
Thank you. I hope everyone else has voted. Let me know when the vote is finished, Ms. Lindo.
The vote is closed, Madam Chair. That's 6 yeas, 0 nays. The agenda has been adopted as amended.
All right, thank you so much. We'll now move to approval of the minutes. I'll make a motion to approve the minutes. Is there a second?
Second.
Who was that?
Mr. Bond.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Bond. There's been a motion and a second. We're ready for the vote, Ms. Lindo.
The vote is open, Madam Chair.
All right. Ms. Winslow, how do you vote?
In favor.
Thank you. Let me know when the vote is complete, Ms. Lindo.
One moment, Madam Chair. The vote is closed. That's 6 yeas, 0 nays. The meeting minutes have been approved.
All right. We're now at public comment, and I believe we have 6 minutes of public comments, which will take about 15 minutes and 31 seconds. So we'll go ahead with those public comments.
Yes, Madam Chair, and I believe there are only 5, and we will...
Okay, I'm sorry. That's correct. You did correct that. 5, because one of them should have gone to transportation. They're absolutely right. 5. Thank you. We're ready.
One moment.
Greetings. My name is Ron Shakir. Appreciate the opportunity in this city, country that I call home, this great country. And I pray that God have mercy on this country. I pray God bless this country. And God bless America when she's right and have mercy on when she's wrong. That she can be guided to the more perfect light and to be able to make a public comment, to have elected officials to be able to listen and to take them in the heart and be concerned about what's expressed is a powerful thing. It's a powerful thing, and it makes our country better. But much too often, the public is the last person that's listened to. We have an upcoming election, but history has shown us that people of color are the last people who are listened to. There are other people who have more weight. Their lives matter more. Their housing matter more. Their safety matter more. Well, right now the concern is about crime. Well, I haven't seen too many cries or concerns inviting people to join the Atlanta Public Police Force. It's a great retirement. It's a great job, and it's a good service. And I just want to use my minute or so that I have left or less to encourage young men, young African-American men, young Caucasian men, men of all colors or races to join the Atlanta Police Department. It's a great career. It's a great opportunity to serve your community. But leave your racism at home. Be concerned of lives that's in our community and realize that they can grow up and be a great addition to our community and save our community from acts of violence that devalue people's lives of color. And stop saying you have no needs when we have needs to address.
Greetings, council members and staff, and special greetings to you citizens and voters of Atlanta, monitoring our government in action between now and Tuesday, November 2nd. Ben Howard, senior advocate, public policy analyst. The NTUR-9 continues to maintain control of Neighborhood Planning Unit R by ensuring that membership attendance rarely exceeds 0.1% of the 20,000 residents and stakeholders within that NPU, except when Lynette L. Scott, chair of the NPUR zoning committee, is trying to push through one of her zoning schemes. Not being notified along with others being slighted are those senior citizens who have gone to NPUR meetings and have been denied the right to be placed on the NPUR agenda. Also not being notified are residents of multifamily facilities within Neighborhood Planning Unit R, members of the disabled community, and those who have limited access to technology. Such exclusion denies residents and stakeholders the right to have a say in such matters as 1. Creating a Neighborhood Planning Unit R Public Safety Committee, and 2. Acting on the motion that was passed at the recent meeting of the Atlanta Planning Advisory Board Public Safety Committee to create a citywide committee on gun safety and gun control. Let the NPUR people participate. Vice Chair Antonita Robinson, Carlos Clare, Ricardo Jacobs, Alvin White, Lynette L. Scott, Allison Hathaway, Sherry Williams, Cheryl Brown, and you NPUR 9 cohort supporters and enablers. Let the people participate.
Even out to the Spirit of Christ, my name is Henri Jordan. But we had the spirit of death in ourselves that we should not trust in ourselves, but in God, which raises the dead. 2 Corinthians 1st chapter 9th verse. The bent of man's natural disposition apart from God's redeeming grace is described lit, crooked, and desperately wicked, incurably sick. Fleshly actions lead to death, gave abundance. Neither their silver nor their gold shall be able to deliver them in the day of Lord's wrath. But the whole land shall be devoured by the fire of his jealousy. But he shall make even a speedy riddance of all them that dwell in the land. Zephaniah 1st chapter 18 verse. It will be exhaustive. The word is without, and the pestilence and famine within. Dearly beloved, avenge not yourselves, but rather give place unto wrath. For it is written, vengeance is mine, I will repay, says the Lord. Romans 12 chapter 19 verse. Give place unto wrath. Paul quotes Deuteronomy 32nd chapter 35th verse to show that only God has the right to avenge, and he will certainly avenge. For God commanded, saying, honor thy father and mother, he that curse their father or mother, let him die to death. Matthew 15 and 4. Respect mother and father who are God's representatives. If not, you will be cursed. I heard a prophecy on the computer that said America will be in a situation that they will not be able to protect themselves. But Christ gave us a way of escape if we only choose it. Christ is our true protector. We can protect ourselves like Christ can. Thanks and obey Jesus.
I am Brother Anthony Muhammad. I am conscious. The creator of the heavens and earth is a consciousness entity. The creator, God, is known in many names. But why am I talking business public safety committee, Ms. Shepherd? We here in Atlanta need the chief of police, the commissioner, to recognize we hear you as you have made comments about the idea of Mr. Kemp, the governor, wanted the Secretary to come in, consider and aid in the work of the Atlanta Police Department. You would welcome that. But you will welcome that also, as I think you said, with collaboration with this entity. But I ask you, as a colored native, original, indigenous, aboriginal person. We are people of the Creator will. All humanity have a will to represent God, to be praised and called on. But what is it need by your office in Atlanta, Chief of Police and Public Safety Committee? You have access to all the communities, even the communities that we found that is asking for most support in the most richest communities of North Carolina. Right here, $14 billion in generation. And they have a right for freedom, justice, and equality. But the people that find themselves without economic empowerment, without economic opportunities and training to uplift themselves, need you to be more inspiring, finding ways to collaborate with those in high political offices to get training for those people. You have your police officers in every area of zoning representing 26 NPUs. And the people who are suffering in life responsible, you say, for a lot of the robbing, stealing, and shooting one another. Let's collaborate with these people who have economic needs to aid with programs. Ron Shakur to work in these depressed areas, have collaboration with the young people. Find out how we can use them to what they think working aid and their transformation from being a crime to something of great potential of economic empowerment. I am Brother Anthony Muhammad. My nature hotel. Assalamu alaikum. Let's do right with the poor. I am Brother Anthony Muhammad. I am a spiritual man representing energy. And I'm not a religious person believing in scriptures. But I know that we are people that's supposed to be representing the interests in this community for the benefit of the constituents of Atlanta and for the capital city of Georgia. You members of zone, I ask you to clearly hear my words. We are allowing this city to be overcome by poverty, overcome by insufficient ideals conducive to changing the conditions of persons that have no economic empowerment, no housing, no opportunity for proving themselves to be a better person and contributor to our great city of Atlanta. You members of zoning, I ask you to hear my words, and I ask you Caucasian of wealth located in cities up to $14 billion on economic empowerment, for here in Atlanta, the metropolitan city, state, which is located as part of, but yet you even know them, but the south side, southwest side, southeast side, are lacking the development. You people from Georgia, it's time that you become conscious that not Sharuth is considered to be present in each and every individual. Communities will be God and is responsible for respecting themselves and being especially respectful to the principle of balance, justice, reciprocity for the benefit of humanity. Where is your humanity, members of zoning? Your people who are the darker people of Atlanta, the least among those, take in need of collaboration of this community to find ways to uplift the condition of people that has no economic empowerment. My nature hotel, Brother Anthony Muhammad, members of zoning committee.
Madam Chair, I believe that concludes the public comment.
Thank you, Ms. Lindo. We will now move to communications. We have three communications today. Two of them, I don't believe that folks are here. The appointees are here. So, Ms. Lindo, I'd like to ask you to read those two in, and we'll ask to hold. And then the last one, I think the person is here. So can we proceed as follows, as stated, rather?
Yes, Madam Chair. The first one is 21C0076. This is a communication from Jill Vanocek, Executive Director of the National Association of Licensing and Compliance Professionals, appointing Mr. Michael Sard to serve as a member of the Alcohol Technical Advisory Group, ATAC 3. Number two is 21C0077. This is a communication from Mr. Chris Swasnik, President of the Georgia Distillers Association, appointing Mr. Jim Chasteen to serve as a member of the Alcohol Technical Advisory Group, the ATAC 3. And Madam Chair, both of these appointees will appear on the 28th.
Okay, so I will make a motion to hold. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Bond. We're ready for the vote, Ms. Lindo.
The vote is open, Madam Chair.
All right. Ms. Winslow, how do you vote? Ms. Winslow? Ms. Winslow, how do you vote?
In favor.
All right. Thank you. All right. Let me know when the vote is complete, Ms. Corinne. Let me know when it's complete, Ms. Lindo.
Councilmember Hillis, we're waiting for one more vote, Madam Chair. The vote's closed. At 6 yeas, 0 nays, those items will be held.
All right. Can you go ahead now and sign item number 3? And I believe they're here. Thank you.
This is 21C0078. This is a communication from Karen Bremer, President and CEO of the Georgia Restaurants Association, appointing Mr. Steve Simon to serve as a member of the Alcohol Technical Advisory Group, ATAC 3. And I'm checking, Madam Chair, because Mr. Simon did confirm that he would dial in, but our team is telling us he's not on the line. So I'm confirming.
Let's ask one more time. Mr. Simon, are you here? If not, we'll go through the remainder of the meeting and just hold this until the end to see if he comes in. If not, we'll have to also come back and vote for this as a whole also. So let's just go ahead and proceed through the meeting and see if y'all can reach him. Okay?
Yes, Madam Chair.
All right. We will now move on to our agenda up under presentations, and I believe we have 3 today. We have the Atlanta Police Department, Chief Court, Fire Department, and the Department of Law. So, Assistant Chief Cart, are you there today to present for the Police Department?
Yes, ma'am. Good afternoon, Councilmember Shepherd and members of the Public Safety Committee. This is Chief Coit, Assistant Chief Coit. Can we go to slide number 2, please? That would be the COBRA report. As you can see, the COBRA report shows the weekly, the 28-day, and the year-to-date numbers. We also have comparing the 2019 year-to-date numbers also. As everyone sees, violent crime is still a challenge. Our homicides and aggravated assaults are the biggest issue that we are dealing with. As Chief Bryant spoke last week, we have implemented our summer plan, and we believe that is making the needle move. That's one of the reasons we were able to have units respond so quickly to the Lenox Mall area for yesterday's incident and get 2 of those people into custody. We also are still dealing with the street racing details. We had that go on again this weekend. However, those numbers continue to drop also. With our partnerships with our federal and local partners, we're able to make some good movement on the violence and also on the street racing. As was shown last week on the media, there was an individual who was a main conspirator for the street racing issues. We were able to take him into custody as he flew into Hartsfield-Jackson International Airport last week. So we believe that had something to do with the low numbers of the people participating in street racing this past weekend. Can you go to slide number 3, please? And that will be titled PAD and Hope Data. It shows that we have had 58 diversions for quarter 1. However, as of today, we had 94 diversions for the first quarter. And it shows 113 attempts and 94 referrals year to date. I believe that's significant because if we compare it to the numbers in 2020, although that was when we were definitely hampered by COVID, in 2020, we only had 28 attempts and 28 diversions. So as everyone can see, having 113 attempts and 94 referrals is a big increase. Also for Hope, our Hope team has had 650 calls for service year to date, and about 46% of the people they contact accept the services. So that's getting better also. Can you go to slide number 4, please, which is titled License and Permit Staffing. The license and permit staffing, this is a breakdown of our current staffing, and we are in the process of adding 3 additional investigators to that unit, and we are also looking to hire 5 civilian inspectors to also supplement the individuals that are already in the unit. The jobs have been posted, and we are having interviews in progress. Also of note, we've trained an additional 50 officers throughout the department. So those 50 additional officers are going to be able to help the license and permits unit when they have the special details. Those 50 officers are able to respond and deal with issues at a much faster rate if something pops up in their area of responsibility. They won't have to wait for license and permits to come over. They've been trained, so they'll be able to deal with those issues themselves. For the license and permits, we've had over 200 locations checked for compliance check. Some of those locations, because they have had some issues, some locations have been checked multiple times, and we have a number of open investigations. I wanted to mention that because at the last meeting and also when Chief Bryant spoke, it was asked if we could provide that information. So that information has been provided, and the title of it is Compliance Checks. So at the end of this, I'll be able to answer any additional questions if anybody has some additional questions. Can we go to the next slide, which is going to be titled Sworn Officer Counts. This shows the number of sworn officers that we have and also the vacancies that are currently on the department. So currently we have about 1,610 officers, and we have over 400 vacancies. And our background and recruitment unit, they continue to recruit potential officers on the department. We have a number of individuals who are interested in being Atlanta police officers. We still have a higher number of people filling out applications online than they did last year, which is encouraging. The thing that is, I guess, a challenge is we want to make sure that those officers meet our standards. So the reason it's been held up slightly is we have very high standards, and some of the individuals, or actually a lot of the individuals, aren't able to meet the standards to become an Atlanta police officer. So we're still working on it, and we believe that we're going to have some success because a lot of people still want to be part of law enforcement. That's the end of my presentation, so I'll be ready to answer any questions that anyone has for me. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Assistant Chief Court. I do have a question going back to what we were saying in terms of the compliance check. There has been a lot of questions around it. I know you all sent a report that says nuisance report, and it was sent over to council and to me this morning. However, what you just said also was you had how many 200 nuisance complaints, and you all went through a process of vetting those out. Is that correct?
No, not necessarily complaints. Over 200 locations that we have checked. That does not necessarily mean there were 200 complaints. It was just locations that we have checked.
So are you familiar with the report that was sent to us today? It has the list, and it was broke down by zones 1 through 6. Is that the same report? Is that what you're referencing?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so those are the addresses where you all see as where you all have some issues. That's the 200 you're talking about. And
yes,
so in terms of the compliance check, you're saying that that's the list.
Yes.
So what is the status? I mean, are you saying that's the list, and what is the status of those at this point?
Well, the one we do not have listed on there. We have some places that we have open investigations, and because we have open investigations, those locations are not listed on that list that was sent over. But as you stated, it was broken down by each zone or each part of the city where those businesses are located, and it's on there. It should be stated if a citation was given or no action was taken. So that should be on the list that was provided to you all also.
Okay, I've asked Ms. Lindo to send it out to every council member. So for council members who are on today, please check your emails for that list. I've asked this to send to all council members. But I think some folks will want, I know for me in particular, there's a couple on me where I want to go and get into more detail about what is the status at this point. So you identified them as issues in zones. And I know one in particular that I think they were denied a liquor license, but I want to know what the status is at this point. And so who do we go through to get more details on that? Go back to the zone or come back to you? What department do we ask specifically for more details on that?
Well, you can come back to me. Again, I did not want to put that information out because we are still doing some things as far as those investigations. But as soon as those investigations are closed, we will be able to provide you that information as far as what those violations were and some of the things we did to check into those violations.
Okay. And then, and you can talk to me later, but last meeting we asked for a due cause report from the mayor's office. I don't know if you can answer that or the mayor's office can ask, and I think it's something from the mayor who's going to ask for a due cause report. So I'll unless you can answer that at this point, but can you answer that, or we should probably wait on the mayor to ask that question in terms of due cause reports? Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am. I would not be able to provide that information at this time.
Okay. So I'm going to step back again. I just want my colleagues to know that if you all see that list and you see anything on the list, you can call our Assistant Deputy Chief Court to ask any questions in reference to the list. So I'm going to step back. Any questions for other folks? I think there is one person who has their hand up. Let me see who that is. That's Mr. Hillis. Mr. Hillis.
Thank you, Chairwoman Shepherd. Thank you, Assistant Chief Coit. On the inspections, I did receive the report from Focus Zone 1 and Zone 2 in my district. These compliance checks, are these checks where just APD investigators or officers are going out, or are you all bringing fire, zoning inspectors, building inspectors, et cetera, to these compliance checks?
Yes, sir. That is a compilation of fire department, Atlanta Police Department, the state health department, because at least a couple of times a month we go out and do joint details with those other entities. So that's a combination of everybody together.
Okay. And that's all I have for you, Assistant Chief Boyd. The only thing I'll reiterate Chairwoman Shepherd's point, as I had brought it up at least a couple times now, whether maybe this committee meeting or maybe at a full council meeting, is getting an update from the Chief of Staff with the Mayor's office about those due cause packages. The audit that we received, I believe, over 6 to 8 weeks ago now, stated there were 7 due cause packages that have been sitting in the Mayor's office for, I believe, over a year. And we're looking for an update on that. Have those been signed off on, or what is the status of those, and any due cause packages that have came in since that audit, the look back period of that audit ended? So I would welcome an update on that.
I'm gonna ask if they'll come back in a minute from the mayor's office to answer that question. So let's just, if any questions are addressed to Mr. Court, we can ask them, and then we're going to ask the mayor folks to come on and address that for us.
Thank you.
I have a quick question, and it's not, I guess, directly related to the police, but in regard to the homeless people that are still in a number of places around. So what is the proper protocol? I know what I've been told, but about a month and a half ago, a homeless man started chasing some little preschoolers around in the West End community and broke a glass door trying to get into the preschool. The person ran away before the police were able to apprehend them. So just for the safety of people, children, and anybody else, the homeless folks don't need to be roaming around. So how does that work when, if I call in, or who would I call just as a citizen? How does it work? Can you give us a scenario?
Yes, ma'am.
Of how it's supposed to work?
If you see anything, or if any citizen sees anything that's concerning to them, they can call 911 and describe what that person is doing, along with a description of what that person is wearing, and an officer will come out. For the incident that you described, that person was chasing a young person and broke a door, that right there would be a criminal act. And the officer could come out, or the officer would come out, and if they were able to apprehend the person, an arrest would be made. We also have our HOPE team, where they encounter homeless people and they attempt to give them services to get them off of the street, or to get them housing, or to get them any kind of assistance they need. So a lot of times we'll see homeless people, but they have not violated any laws, and that's why our HOPE team helps them to help get them services, as I just said, because they have not violated laws. But if they violate laws,
we do have an encampment law in the book. That's not true.
Yes, ma'am.
But anyway, go ahead. Okay, go ahead.
If they do violate any laws, arrests will be made, or depending on what the law was, sometimes we will refer them to pre-arrest diversion, or PAD, to get them services. And if they complete that PAD program, however long that judge and the PAD determines the program to be, then the potential charges that they could have been charged with won't be placed on that person. So we have a number of things that we try to do to help all citizens of Atlanta, whether they're homeless or not.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so and thank you for that. So let me ask this question, because I keep getting phone calls, and and I can only do so much. So I've kind of had to refer some people, to the mayor's office. So the people that are in the parks after 11 p.m. that are living in the parks, we've got a little problem because people are fecal matter and they're urinating in the park, because they're living there. So in that type of situation, because I've smelled the fecal matter, and so have other people that have been using the parks, and that's not a good health-related thing. And I've sent all this information to the mayor's office. So my question is, in that kind of instance, and it, there's some underlying issues, so I'm not going to get into that over the, in this meeting. But when that happens after 11 p.m. at night, are they violating any type of code after 11 p.m., between 11 and 6 p.m. when people are not supposed to be in the park? Nobody minds the homeless using the park during the appropriate hours. It's the inappropriate hours. So help me with that, Deputy Chief Coit.
Yes, ma'am. If they're in there after the park closes, that is a potential that they have violated some city ordinances. And I believe I know what park you're talking about. So
yep, Cleophas Johnson. Okay,
yes.
Evan P. Howell, Thompson.
Yes.
The last year, I had an event at Cleophas Johnson Park, and I smelled feces in the park. That's not good. That's a health-related problem. We don't want our workers to get sick. That's what I'm afraid of. And then people going in the park to get sick. Oh, I just get filled up sometimes. They got to go. They can't be in there at night, please.
Yes, I'll speak with Major Tyus and Major Collier.
He's doing the best he can. I'm not mad with them, okay? I'm not upset with them. I want to let you know they're doing the best they can, okay?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. But I just wanted to point it out to you because I'm getting calls every day, and I have been for the last year, and I'm just totally frustrated at this point. Now, there have been some things that have been done because we had a homeless encampment of about 25 people in Cleophas Johnson Park, but we still got an issue over there, and so I don't want it to be a situation where it becomes health related because then that becomes dangerous. That becomes a danger, okay?
Yes, ma'am.
And we have employees that are cutting grass and moving around in the park. They could bring something back, that they don't know about.
Yes.
Yeah, okay. All right. Thank you so much. I appreciate your assistance. And thank you for tightening up the reins, okay, in regard to the liquor license division, okay? Because I gave you some information, I guess, over a year ago. And so I appreciate that, you working on that, or the department, just the staff working on that, okay?
No problem. Thank you.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm done.
Thank you, Ms. Winslow. Does anyone else have any other questions?
Yes.
Mr. Bond.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, Deputy, for your presentation and the information that you've shared. I've just got a couple of questions. One, as I review the list that was emailed to us, I don't see a club in particular. I guess I can call the name, I think it's called Red Pepper. I've received an extremely long email that I'm going to forward to you and the chief about some really extreme behavior, particularly around the outside of the club, a long list of complaints. So if it's not on, my question is, if it's not on this list, did you say that it might be under, there might be other locations that are under investigation that may not appear on this list, or how do we know it's being followed up on? Because I think that they have 911 quite a bit. They were the surrounding neighbors, as it relates to that location?
Yes, sir. There are some locations that are not on this list because we do have open investigations on those locations.
So these are the ones that have just been closed or closed out or completed. It's not the ones that are ongoing.
Right. The ones that are on this list, those investigations have been closed, or they've just been given, I don't want to say just, they've been given citations and they don't have any open investigations or open court dates for these establishments.
Okay. Well, I'm glad for the clarity. Thank you. And my second issue is you mentioned the shooting of the security guard, and we hope for his speedy recovery. Yesterday at Lenox, and I know people have appreciated the quick and rapid response on the apprehension of the perpetrators, but of course, you know, that as you know, perpetrators are 15 years old. And, you know, what happens in that case? How are they charged? I know that, are they charged as juveniles? Are they charged as adults? You know, what's going on with that? I've gotten a lot of calls about that as well.
Well, those individuals were charged with felonies, and some of their charges are charges that could graduate them to adult court. So it will be up to the judge to determine if they will be charged as adults or if it will stay as juveniles. So that process, because it happened yesterday, that process is still ongoing. But as I mentioned, the charges that they have, some of them are capable of moving their hearings to adult court.
Okay. And so, I mean, were they taken to juvenile, or were they released to their parents? Is that a situation with the point system that these two individuals may have found themselves, you know, released back to their families, or were they detained?
Those individuals were detained yesterday because of the severity of their charges. They were not immediately released to their parents. They were detained at juvenile.
Now, I understand. Were they actually charged with attempted murder or just aggravated assault?
I want to say both. They were charged with both. They're charged with several charges. It's more charges than just those two.
Okay, so forgive my loss of recollection. Is that a bondable offense? Do you know? Do you recall? Because I'm just curious.
If you are an adult, yes, it would be a bondable offense. The judge just decides how high the bond is going to be.
Okay. So, and then leaping from your report to for you to pull on one of the various task forces that APD is associated with, are any of these task forces that are looking at this kind of organized gang violence or criminal activity, is there any discussion about the point system and how ineffective or effective it may be in dealing with these minors who are in these situations?
Yes, sir. That's two different conversations. But as Chief Bryan and I have spoken on a couple of times, we are doing Operation Phoenix, which involves some of our federal partners. And Operation Phoenix not only focuses on gangs, but it focuses on individuals that are violent repeat offenders. So I guess that answers part of the question. The other question is having conversations as far as the point system. What we would need to do, we being law enforcement have voiced our concerns about the point system, but we would need council members and also citizens to also voice their concerns about the point system.
Well, I'd like to present you with the opportunity to give us the information that we would need to address it, because I don't want to see, obviously I don't want to see young people, just funneled into the criminal justice system. But when there are extreme acts like these charges, there needs to be something more substantial in the way that these cases are handled with these youth. They don't just turn around and get back out and recommit another act. And then alternatively, these kids, I guess, while they're awaiting trial, there's, I don't know if that's too late for PAD or too late for some other intervening agency, but there's obviously need for intervention for the young people who are finding themselves attracted and then subsequently caught up in gang activity. So just a little bit of editorializing. And my last question comes back, as always, to you. I believe you said you were encouraged by the number of people who were showing an interest in making the Atlanta Police Department a career. How many people do we have currently in classes, or when are they due to come out? And just generally, how I know we have high standards, but how are we tracking for the year as far as hires? When compared to maybe last year was an aberration, maybe the year 19 and year 18. How are we looking with that?
Well, right now we're tracking behind as we compare to last year. We currently have hired about 37 people for the year, and we are due to have a class come out. I want to say in the next month. Well, they're about to be sworn in about 2 weeks. And so after they're sworn in, they have several more weeks where they do some field training with our officers that are already on the street. So they'll be coming out or hitting the streets, like I said, in a couple of weeks. But we're behind as far as compared to last year with hiring, but we still have quite a few that are in the process of getting some paperwork finished and being brought on as employees.
Okay. And I'll ask this last question, and then I will withdraw. When you're trying to have people meet these standards, and we obviously want high standards because we want the best candidates so we can have the best police officers. But for some of these people who might get eliminated, is there an opportunity for them to ameliorate the issues that might knock them out, or is it that they hit a roadblock and then they're kind of discarded as a candidate?
No, so some of them do have an opportunity to correct the issues that keep them out. It just depends on what that issue is. Because sometimes the issue could be a criminal record. So it just depends. We do have a number of people that will take the couple of months or a year to correct their issues and then reapply with the city.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you, Deputy Chief, and I withdraw, Madam Chair.
Okay. Is there anyone else who would like to ask questions of our Assistant Chief?
Yeah, Madam Chair, I do have one last question, or maybe it's a comment. We're all concerned about the guns and violence that's happening not only in the city of Atlanta but metro-wide. And I come from the Midwest, about 90 miles from Chicago, and I'm very concerned that there may be some more of the violent people that, I don't know, moving down here, and that it's just been a step up in things that I've seen, I guess that we've all seen in regard to violence. So what's your take on it? I know you may not be able to say that much, but, you know, I think we're all just seeing something different that's a little more frightening, where these people are trying to take over our city and send a message that they plan on taking over. So
I wish I had that answer. Unfortunately, this is something that's happening not just in the state of Georgia, but nationwide. Chief Bryant, the command staff, we are on, we're in meetings, we have conversations with people around the country on a daily basis, and everybody, whether it's a large city or a small city, are experiencing the increase in violence and the increase in not just violence, but the increase in shootings and fighting. So at this point, we don't have an answer. We just have to continue to try and speak with our citizens and speak with our visitors, and hopefully enforcing the laws and talking to people where we can talk them out of some of these violent situations. I don't have an answer for that right now.
Okay. Well, you guys are the expert. I just didn't know if it was some type of trend that was coming from the Midwest, or, you know. Okay. All right. Okay. Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm done.
All right. If we have nothing from anyone else, we will thank you, Assistant Chief Court, for being here today and assisting us in terms of questions and all the work y'all did this weekend. We got a lot of work to do, I would say that, and we still got a lot of time, but thank you all for your initiative. So I appreciate you.
Thank you all. Have a good evening.
All right.
Thank you, Deputy Chief.
I'd like to ask if Ms. Charlotte Jacks will come on in terms of our due cause process. I'm asking that she comes and give us a report on what's happening at this point. Ms. Jacks, are you there?
Yes. Good afternoon, Madam Chair. Do you hear me?
Yes.
Thank you so much. This is in regards, you had inquired and asked for an update on those properties that had been identified in the audit, some nuisance properties. And it's my understanding it was 7 properties that were identified. I have found out that all of those properties have been, the paperwork has been signed off by the mayor with the exception of one. On that particular one, we are asking for additional assistance from the law department to make sure that everything that needs to be done has been done, and that when we do execute on that there's no going back and following up on that. So that is just the one outstanding one that is there. It was determined by the staff that there may be some complications with it, so we wanted to clear that up. The other thing that I want to note is that the mayor does not have anything on her desk as of this conversation regarding nuisance property, and it has been the practice that she will not get it on her desk until everyone has signed off on it and that it is complete before she is asked to review as well as sign it. So as of this conversation, all of those identified in that audit report have been taken care of except for one, and we will be looking at that one further to be sure that in accordance with the law department, all actions have been taken in accordance with the law, appropriate, and that we iron out the complications that have been identified.
Thank you. Mr. Hillers, do you have any questions or follow-up to what you responded Ms. Jacks has just given?
No, Madam Chair, that's all. I'm glad to hear the update. Thank you.
All right. Any other questions before we move on to our next presentation in terms of public safety from the police department? If not, thank you. We'll move now to our next presentation, which is Atlanta Fire Rescue, and that will be our Chief, Rod Smith.
Madam Chair, if I may.
Mm-hmm.
Madam Chair, Mr. Smith, Mr. Simon has joined us. I didn't know if you wanted to dispose of his appointment.
Oh, okay, thank you. Yes. Thank you so much for coming back to that. Thank you. Chief Smith, if you could hold for a moment, let's go back to our communications. Can you read that legislation again, Ms. Lindo, so we can go ahead and do that? Thank you so much.
Yes, Madam Chair. That's 21C0078. This is a communication from Karen Bremer, President and CEO of the Georgia Restaurants Association, appointing Mr. Steve Simon to serve as a member of the Alcohol Technical Advisory Group, the ATAC-3, and Mr. Simon has joined us.
Mr. Simon, welcome and come forward. Please tell us about yourself and why you would like to serve.
Good afternoon, and thank you for seeing me later than I was supposed to be seen. My apologies for my tardiness. I'm a partner in Fifth Group Restaurants, actually the founder. Fifth Group Restaurants is a group of businesses we started back in '93, South City Kitchen being our first restaurant. We got other brands called Echo, Lure, La Tavola, the original El Taco, and Alma, and then a catering company called Bold Catering and Design. I've lived in Midtown since I moved here in '92. Been involved in the Restaurant Association, Midtown Alliance, both for more than 10 years. And, obviously an active participant in the Atlanta restaurant community, and happy to be involved and help in any way that I can.
Thank you, Mr. Simon. Are there any questions for Mr. Simon?
Move approval.
Thank you, Mr. Bond. There's a motion to approve. Is there a second? I will second. This is Councilmember Shepherd. I will second. There is a motion by Mr. Bond and a second by me. We're ready for the vote. Ms. Lindo?
The vote is open, Madam Chair.
All right, thank you. Ms. Winslow, how do you vote? Ms. Winslow? I don't think we've got Ms. Winslow with us right now. Okay, let me know when we finish the vote, Ms. Lindo.
One moment, Madam Chair. This one's closed. That's 5 yeas, 0 nays. That item is favorable.
Thank you so much, Mr. Simon, for coming. We look forward to working with you, and thank you for volunteering for working with us in the city.
Okay, great. Thank you all. Have a great day.
All right, you too. Bye-bye. All right. Now we're going to go back to our Atlanta Fire Chief, Chief Rod Smith. Chief Smith, are you there?
Yes, ma'am. Madam Chair, can you hear me?
Yes, I can. Thank you so much.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair, council members. My name is Rod Smith, and I am your fire chief, and it's my pleasure to be here today. I will be presenting today on behalf of the Atlanta Fire Rescue Department. And along with me, I have the senior executive staff of the Atlanta Fire Rescue Department here to assist if needed. I also want to inform you of a couple of changes in the executive staff. We now have as the first deputy, Chief James McLemore. The Deputy Chief of Support Services is now Dr. Byron Kennedy. The Deputy Chief of the Aviation Division is Chief Michael Winfrey. And the Deputy Chief of Technical Services is Alan Burton. And so I will begin with my presentation now. Next slide, please. The Atlanta Fire Rescue Department's mission and vision continue to be the same, and our goal is to provide prompt quality service to our stakeholders and promote safety and well-being, which enhances sustainability and enriches the quality of life through professional development and dedication to service. Next slide, please. Our current goals and objectives are to work with the mayor's administration to ensure fire engines are fully staffed, AFRD fire station renovations and replacements are ongoing. We develop a plan for lateral hiring and recruitment to address our staffing challenges, to develop a plan for a new AFRD training center, as well as to continue providing safe working environments for all AFRD members, and to complete enhancements, repairs, replacements of facilities and fleet. Next slide, please. Our organizational priorities remain the same. Service excellence, we continue to focus on our calls for service. Our staffing strategies, we will address all staffing and attrition challenges, as well as our fleet, facility enhancements, and construction. We will continue all renovations, constructions, additions, and replacements. Next slide, please. When we talk about our service excellence, next slide, please, we start with our call for service. For the third quarter of fiscal year 2021, AFRD's calls totaled to 1,284 at the Airport Division, which is consistent with last quarter. In the downtown area, we see our calls totaling 20,300, which is also consistent, showing that we are moving towards what the new norm shall be. Next slide. In comparing the calls for third quarter of this fiscal year versus last year, you will see a dramatic increase in downtown calls for service as we move towards more of a state of normalcy. You'll see an increase from 10,266 calls this time last year to 20,305 calls this time today. The aviation division, you will see a slight decrease, but that number is on the rise, with the airport aviation division currently having 1,284 calls as they continue to open up flight and accessibility. Next slide, please. Next, we'll address the staffing strategies for Atlanta Fire Rescue. Next slide. For fiscal year 2021, you will see that our vacancy rate currently in the general fund is 24%, which is up from this time last year. Our staffing strength currently is 856. Our enterprise fund, our staffing is at a vacancy of 32%, while we have 17 recruits that are in the pipeline that are scheduled to graduate on next Tuesday, June 22nd at 6 p.m., adding to our members that are in the field. Our total staffing for Atlanta Fire Rescue, you will find for the department, sworn and civilians, our staffing is, our vacancy is 26%. And so we're intentionally intend to keep addressing those with some things that we will share here shortly. Next slide, please. When we look at the sworn head count, you will see that the authorized FTEs for Atlanta Fire Rescue, third quarter of last year versus third quarter of this year, you will see a decrease. However, the sworn vacancy rate increased by the sworn vacancy rate is 24% with a 12% increase. So you will see sworn vacancies start to rise, and this is attributed to retirement, which are something that we cannot avoid, as well as resignations as we are following the trend across the country with people simply resigning from jobs. Next slide, please. When you look at the third quarter attrition rates, you will see the breakout here of just why members are leaving. And you will see at the top of the list, which is retirement, which Atlanta Fire has a large population of employees that were hired as a result of the early out in 1992. And so they are now approaching the time and the age and they are opting to leave, as well as we have 11 resignations, and we are still investigating further to determine why those members are resigning. However, it seems to be meeting what the norm is across employment as a whole. Next slide, please. Next slide, you will see our slide for sworn separation in detail, and you will see the differences of separations in third quarter of 2020 versus third quarter of 2021, where you will see the total number of separations is down by about half, and then you will see the breakout to the side there for the specific category. As I mentioned earlier, Atlanta Fire Rescue is in a position where we are trying to aggressively address the vacancies that we have in our department as they continue to increase. And so today I am proud to share with you that we have posted positions to hire experienced firefighters, looking for firefighters that have 3 years or more, that are currently EMT or paramedic certified and have state of Georgia firefighter certifications, as well as we are now beginning to aggressively recruit recruit EMTs and paramedics who desire to be firefighters, as well as we have opened the door for current aircraft rescue firefighting certified firefighters who work at our airport and bring them in and compensate them as such. Next slide, please. A third priority, we look at facilities and fleet. And you will see here a picture of 5155 Clipper Drive, which is the old Boeing building, in which the Atlanta Fire Rescue Department is now proud to make this our temporary home for training. It is 52,000 square feet, and we began moving into this location last week, and we are looking to get up and operational training as quickly as possible, with our next full recruit class reporting there, with the anticipation of having them in place by mid-July. Next slide, please. When we look at our facilities priorities, I have here an update of some ongoing projects that we have. Fire Station 22 and 36 are currently fully funded. Station 22's construction is underway, with Station 36 targeted to begin this summer. We have the replacement burn building, which is the Conex box configuration, which we are looking to procure and get that in place as quickly as possible. We have the ongoing AFRD Training Academy and Airport Operations, which is the building I just mentioned, which is the same building that Airport Operations will be co-locating in with our training center, sharing that facility. We have Station 21 on our list, in which we have structural and ADA improvements to begin this summer, with the waterproofing completed. Station 32, which is a rebuild at the airport, which is scheduled to begin in July of this year. Fire Station 19, structural and internal improvements are to begin this fall. With Station 16, lastly but not least, looking to do the kitchen and life safety improvements to complete this project near the end of this month. Next slide, please. Our current operations in the Atlanta Fire Rescue Department right now are preparing for the upcoming Peachtree Road Race, as well as working on our return to work plan, bringing people back into the office, as well as administering our telework program. Accomplishments, next slide, please. Accomplishments thus far for Atlanta Fire Rescue is we have assisted thus far with administering COVID-19 vaccination at the Mercedes-Benz station. We recently had all ladder trucks pass the state inspection so that they can assist with running or upgrading to BLS calls. The AFRD, in collaboration with Watershed, has ordered 2 3,000-gallon tankers, which we are having currently built and are scheduled to be delivered. in December of this year. As I stated before, we have 17 recruits from Class 19-3B that are scheduled to graduate on next Tuesday. And we are now successfully relocating to the 5155 Clipper Drive location. And the systems are up and operational. Next slide, please. And that completes my presentation. And I am now available for any questions for myself and the staff, should you have any.
Thank you, Chief Smith. I do have a few questions, but I'm not sure if my colleagues, I haven't seen anyone yet. Is there anyone who wants to ask questions before I jump in?
Hillis.
Mr. Hillis, please go ahead.
Thank you, Chairwoman Shepherd. Thank you, Chief Smith, for the presentation. A few questions. One, glad to hear of the experienced firefighter hiring program that's been established. What are some more details of that? How long will their program be before they are put into service here in the city?
I could not hear the last part. I'm sorry, sir.
How will that program for the experienced firefighters work? How long will their training program be before they're put into active service with the city?
So thank you for that question. So what we are looking to do is bring them on and send them through an acclimation program, which will give them approximately 8 weeks at the training center prior to being placed into field operations.
Okay. And do you have a goal of how many you want to hire through that program?
Currently, right now, we are looking to see what the turnout is going to be for that. Ultimately, our goal is to raise the staffing numbers. So I don't have a number to give you to say this is the number we're intending to hire. We just know that we need people across the board. And so we are now trying to leverage that and get experienced firefighters who can come in and very quickly learn how to operate in the atmosphere of Atlanta.
Thank you for that. The next thing is, I guess, more of a observation, but if you could just confirm that. But in the presentation, it appears when you look at Q3 calls this year compared to last year, they've doubled this year, and our vacancy rate has also doubled in percentage.
And you speak of the comparison of this year versus last year?
The calls for service, I believe what y'all refer to as downtown calls for service, that went from 10 to 20,000, and then the vacancy rate has went from 12% to 24%.
Yes, sir. That is correct.
Okay. Obviously, a lot to work on there. The last thing is a thing that we spoke about extensively, being the issue with our fleet. I wanted to get verification. I received word that yesterday, some people told me 4, some people told me 5, also heard 6. Ladder trucks were down yesterday, maybe a few engines, and also heard there were issues with air trucks. Can you confirm what the status of the fleet is or was yesterday?
Yes, sir. So we did have some challenges on yesterday with the fleet. There were a total of 6 trucks that went down intermittently. The majority of those trucks are either back in service or being promised to be back in service today. There are a couple of exceptions where the parts had to be ordered. One was a windshield on the tiller cab of one of the trucks, and one of them was a death line, which is a specialized part. The other ones were typical routine maintenance, brake jobs that became necessities immediately, as well as the air truck. We've been having some ongoing issues with the front line truck, but I am being told that the electrical issue in that truck will be rectified before the end of this week. However, if there is a need, the good thing for us is that we do have we have the backup truck that we utilize to shuttle air bottles around. But if there is a need for a cascade system, we have one at Station 3, as well as they have a truck and a cascading system at the airport that we can bring out with mutual aid if needed.
Okay, specific to the air truck, that was the one I needed, I guess, the most verification on. I'd not heard that from a firefighter, but someone in relation to the Virginia Highland fire stated that the front line truck was down, the reserve truck was down, and they had to bring in an air truck from the airport. Is that correct?
So it was not necessary to bring in the truck from the airport, as we had enough air cylinders that were on the truck we used to shuttle. However, we don't frown upon taking a safety precaution or that call that was made by the incident commander. It's better to be safe than sorry.
Understood. So this truck situation, and I guess to a lesser extent an engine situation that was first brought to my attention 3 months ago, so a little after your I guess first quarterly report for you, but the last quarterly report that we heard before this one, we had asked for, and you had provided a list of orders, and the last that was on that was a fiscal year 21 order of one pumper, one tactical medical unit upgrade, and then one truck-drawn aerial ladder. Have you been in discussions either internally with AFRD and with the administration about, number one, putting another order in for FY22, and number two, addressing this backlog where we, at least in this document, it appears we did not order any ladders for 2 fiscal years?
Yes, sir. So we have been working very close with the administration as well as Fleet Services. And we have been assured that we will be able to shore up or make some changes to the order. I do not have the final number for the order, but we definitely will be getting more than one engine and one ladder during this fiscal order.
Okay, that's good to hear. And good to hear. And just wanted some clarity on the two apparatus we're receiving that you refer to as the 2 tankers. Now, are those engines, or what are those?
No, so they are water shuttles. They are tankers that we utilize in the event that the hydrants in an area, or we have a deficient water source in a specific area. Watershed has been gracious enough to order those for us, and we will use them together collaboratively to support the needs of the city when we have any water shortages or water outages.
And these are new additions to the fleet, or are these replacing other apparatus?
These are brand new additions to the fleet.
Okay. So leave us all I have for now, but I do want to have some offline discussion about the ladder and engine issues and the orders. So look forward to speaking with you soon.
Sure, no problem at all. Thank you.
Thank you, Chief. And thank you, Chairwoman Shepherd. That's all I have for now.
Thank you, Mr. Hillers. Actually, you asked the question that I was going to ask in terms of what happened yesterday in the Virginia Highland area. I got an email from a colleague who represents that area and was very concerned about it. And so I'm glad you asked the questions. But I'd like to see, Chief, if you could send maybe a written report, because some of the folks who live in that area, our colleagues, they're not on this committee. So can you send us a written report of what happened in that particular instance and how we handle it in the ongoing process in terms of alleviating this problem? So is that way possible that you can send a report? I'd like to ask for a report of that so we can send it out to our colleagues.
And just to be clear, you're asking about the fleet status over in that area, or the issues that were
right.
happening?
Yes, I mean, Mr. Hillis talked about the fact that over in Virginia Avenue area that, number one is that, the truck, one of the trucks had to be towed away. You talked about all the concerns. Can you give a report on specifically what happened in reference to that, and how are you resolving these issues? I'll send you the email so you can respond to this text, okay?
Yes, ma'am.
All right, I appreciate that. Any other questions from my colleagues? Any other questions? Thank you. I do have one other question. You talked about moving into the new facility out in College Park. But are you not also moving? Have y'all already moved people into the John Burdine Center also on Lakewood?
So we are close. So currently, right now, we are doing some renovations to that facility, some painting, some cleanup, and some carpet, things of that nature. But the intent is to move the community risk reduction section into that building, and they will be going in as quickly as possible. I'm anticipating they'll be in there by mid-July.
Now, is that going to be permanent or is that temporary also? Is that temporary?
No, ma'am. That's going to be a permanent location for them.
Okay. All right, so that's going to be permanent. And then that's moving in there like other folks, and once we get something built, they'll move them out. That's going to be a permanent location.
Yes, ma'am. Okay. We're moving them into the community.
And what in particular, again, do they do? Can you break that down for me again?
So essentially, that is our inspection section. Those are the ones who go out and ensure code compliance for Atlanta Fire Rescue.
Okay.
And they work directly under the fire marshal.
Okay. All right. So then how many people are going to be over there? Do you have any idea? What's the staff?
Currently, there are 18 employees, but we are looking to change that number as they collaborate with the inspectors that are at the airport as well.
Okay. All right. All right. Thank you. Mm-hmm. Any other questions? Thank you so much, Chief Smith, for your work. We appreciate you.
Thank you for having us today, and if I can be of any assistance, please don't hesitate to reach out.
All right. I'll text you that information. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Next, we have a presentation by our law department, our city attorney, Ms. Hickson. Are you there?
I am. Good afternoon, Madam Chair, Council President Moore, members of the Public Safety and Legal Administration Committee, as well as members of the public. I am Nina Hickson, City Attorney for the City of Atlanta, and I'm pleased to present our report on the third quarter of fiscal year 21. We will be speaking about activities that have occurred since February 22nd, 2021. Moving to slide 2, please. The report today will cover our COVID-19 pandemic response highlights, accomplishments of members of the law department staff, some highlights in terms of activities of the law department in general, the accomplishments of our various divisions, those being litigation, business services, public safety, legislative, special initiatives, and operations. Also, we will talk about revenue recovery as well as claims and settlement payments over the third quarter and outside counsel spending. Let's move to slide number 4, please. In terms of the response to COVID-19, we've been active in the following way. The Contract Practice Group completed a key technology services agreement which secured access to Noggin's 2.0 COVID-19 response software. The software will enable the city to facilitate contact tracing, mapping, case management, and development of organizational response plans based on CDC guidance. Additionally, the Contract Practice Group did an essential contract on behalf of AIM to activate 200 licenses for a back-to-work application that would allow employee pre-screening and assist with management of building capacity to align with CDC guidelines. Move to slide number 5. The contracts department also did over 45 grant subrecipient agreements and amendments, including agreements for coronavirus relief fund supported programs and emergency rental assistance supported programs. The Special Initiative Practice Group reviewed, revised, and drafted the privacy COVID-19 notifications for AIM's back to work application policy, as well as the clean desk policy for HR, and that is a policy that will go into effect once we return to the building. Moving to slide 7, I'd like to mention that Tyronia Smith was appointed to serve another term as Vice President of Special Events for the Georgia Association of Women Lawyers. Kelly Hooper became a member of the Win List Leadership Academy, as well as being named the incoming legal ministry chair for her church, Cascade United Methodist Church. And Reginald McClendon was appointed by the President-elect of the American Bar Association to serve as a member of the ABA Standing Committee on Election Law, and this appointment is for a period of 3 years. Moving to slide number 9. We were very pleased. As many of you know, we have an annual continuing legal education program. This year we were able to do or to host a 2-session virtual CLE entitled Navigating 2021 as a Public Sector Attorney. We had 2 sessions, one led by Ron Freeman Sr. of Johnson & Freeman. The second, Unparalleled Unity, was a panel discussion which was led by Justice Adrian Nelson of the Oregon Supreme Court. The panelists included Nora Benavidez, Richard Dean, Ronald Haley, myself, Michael Monahan, State Representative Sam Park, and Judge Eric Richardson. The program got approval for 4 Georgia continuing legal education hours, including 1 ethics hour and 2 professionalism hours. And we had over 100 people to attend this program, including 72 attorneys. We've also, moving to slide 10, the Aviation Practice Group also collaborated with our Professional Development Committee to obtain approval for a 5-part virtual program entitled Trademark Success Series. This lunch series was led by Dana Thomas Esquire and provided lawyers as well as business people with a practical approach to trademark law. The Georgia Bar approved this program for 5 continuing legal education hours. And again, we had over 100 people to attend this program. Moving to slide 11, our Public Safety, Policy, and Special Initiatives legal team collaborated with the Department of Human Resources, AIM, and other city departments to develop a citywide telework policy and telework agreement, which would set out the requirements for once we are no longer doing mandatory telework. This is an agreement that will be entered by those who will continue to work remotely, and provide the details of what the expectations are, as well as how assets are to be used when you're working remotely. And so that collaboration has resulted in the development of this policy, which will be distributed to the various departments. Slide 12, we're very pleased with members of our contract department, Chandra Houston, Camille Small-Simon, and Christine Wong, who presented to the International Municipal Lawyer Association, or IMLA, a contract management framework for public entities. They had over 200 attendees at this particular program, and they shared successful techniques for legal management of the procurement and contracting functions. We also ended up having 16 municipalities throughout the United States make a request for our playbook, our standard contract template, negotiation playbook, and also request a deeper discussion of the techniques that they were able to share during this seminar. Slide 13, we also had 2 of our members to present on the issue of failure to train theory, what you should know in Section 1983 cases. And so the presentation provided a primer on what municipal lawyers should know when faced with a failure to train case, and they also provided a real-life case study. Those members of the department were Stacy Miller and Joshua Foster. Moving to slide 15, we will talk about a series of cases. We had the Carlisle case, which was a case involving, or at least where the city was accused of trespass, nuisance, first say taking, inverse condemnation, as well as a request for attorney fees after the owner of the property discovered underground sanitary sewer and storm water lines traversing their property. The court ended up granting the plaintiff's motion on the issue of liability and denied the city's motion for summary judgment. However, the Georgia Court of Appeals has reversed that finding and ruled that the plaintiff's claims against the city are time barred, and so that ends up ending that particular case. Slide 16 was a case, Stouts versus City of Atlanta and Live Nation. The plaintiff filed a complaint for an assault that occurred at Lakewood Amphitheater. The city filed its answer denying the allegations. The city served discovery on the plaintiff, which the plaintiff did not respond to, and so a motion to compel was filed March the 8th, 2021, or in the alternative, a motion to dismiss. The court ended up granting the motion to dismiss the city from this litigation. Slide 17, Muhammad versus City of Atlanta and others. The plaintiff is a former watershed department employee who alleged retaliation and wrongful termination after allegedly experiencing and reporting physical disability to a superior. The city argued that the plaintiff could not establish a case for retaliation because the incident was resolved in the plaintiff's favor with no adverse employment action. And the evidence also showed a legitimate non-discriminatory reason for plaintiff's administrative-only restrictions, and then the plaintiff's ultimate termination. The judge accepted that report and recommendation as the magistrate judge and granted the city's motion for summary judgment in that case. Slide 18, this is Picard versus City of Atlanta Defined Benefit Pension Plan Investment Board. The petitioner brought this action against the investment board and others because his pension benefits had been reduced as a result of receiving an overpayment. And so he appealed that decision. The board determined that there was in fact an overpayment and that there would be a reduction of his monthly benefit as a result. The court granted the board's motion and dismissed this particular case. Slide 19, Urban versus City of Atlanta. The petitioner requested an adjustment to certain water and sewer charges that were unpaid to the city, and then appealed the rejection of this request. Following the denial by the Water and Sewer Appeals Board, the petitioner filed suit. In this iteration of the lawsuit, the petitioner did not name the Department of Watershed Management as he did in the first lawsuit. However, the city argued in the motion to dismiss that the petitioner did not satisfy the requirements for writ of certiorari and filed suit in the wrong court. The court granted the city's motion to dismiss with prejudice. Slide 20, this was a case involving an injury to the plaintiff regarding a trip and fall caused by a damaged water meter lid. The city filed a motion to dismiss, arguing that the plaintiff had not proven the waiver of sovereign immunity, and the city did not have notice of that particular defect. Plaintiff did not file a response to the city's motion and then subsequently filed her own dismissal with prejudice, terminating the case. There was the case of Thomas versus City of Atlanta. This was an excessive force case involving an APD officer where the demand was for $1 million. The district court granted the city's motion to dismiss the case and all claims against that individual officer. Slide 21, we have the case of KB versus City of Atlanta and APD officer. This is a case where the APD responded to a domestic disturbance call and where the wife was in the street with a knife and was threatening her husband and attempted to stab her husband. The officer shot her, hitting her in her abdomen. She filed suit seeking damages. The city filed an answer, met with the plaintiff's counsel, during the meeting showed the body-worn camera footage, and it was determined the officer's actions were in compliance with the Atlanta Police Department policies, and so the plaintiff voluntarily dismissed the case. Now, if we can move to slide 23, where we talk about the work of the contract division of business services. Among their activities were to complete an essential services agreement to support and maintain the emergency communication system at Hartsfield-Jackson. They finalized Section 8 housing agreements for Washington Apartments, Santa Fe Apartments, and Venera Village, ensuring continuation of affordable housing to city residents. Completed the legislative reviews on over 35 procurement-related matters. They also completed key fiscal year 20 Hopwell Grant subrecipient agreements totaling over $18 million, facilitated the Department of Grants and Community Development staff training on grants contracts and the law, providing new templates and processes for entitlement grant agreements, negotiated 2 service contracts to provide for emergency repairs and rehabilitation to the city sewer system in an effort to mitigate sewer overflows and ensure long-term structural integrity and service of the system. They also reviewed over 15 solicitations on behalf of the Department of Procurement in advance of their advertisement. They also finalized a $56 million contract to allow for completion of vital improvements to Hartsfield-Jackson International Airport Runway 9L, and negotiated an operations and management agreement and a separate fertilizer offtake agreement on behalf of Watershed, which allowed Terra USA to implement a nutrient recovery system at the R.M. Clayton Water Reclamation Center that will eliminate excess waste and allow the city to recoup some of its operational costs and comply with environmental regulations related to phosphorus pollution. Additionally, they finalized a contract with the American Association of Airport Executives to procure a web-based automatic fingerprint capture solution, which will streamline the process of performing criminal history checks and security threat assessments required by the TSA. They also finalized an important agreement for security access and control systems operation and maintenance on behalf of the Department of Aviation. They finalized the emergency agreement for the replacement and repair of emergency backup generators at the Atlanta Detention Center, negotiated and finalized the technology services agreement with Milmer Technology Maintenance on behalf of the Atlanta Police Department for the management of documentary evidence required for investigation and prosecution of crimes, and reviewed and finalized the key city annual services contract regarding the disposal of municipal solid waste for the Department of Public Works and Watershed Management, and that was found on slide 27. Moving to slide 28, they also assisted AIM with drafting legislation to receive an in-kind donation from AT&T valued at over $800,000 to enhance wireless coverage in City Hall and the Public Safety Annex, and negotiated a city digital kiosk agreement with IKE Incorporated on behalf of AIM for the installation and operation of a series of interactive digital kiosks. Moving to slide 29, the Finance Department provided the following services. They helped identify problems associated with the EnerGov platform and online payment options to help manage and process annual business tax and licensing payments related to revenue for the city. The Finance Department, moving to slide 30, developed a budget resource guide for lawyers and provided training for the Department of Law lawyers on the budget season, as well as made sure that there were department lawyers staffing each of the public hearings for the Finance Department budget hearings. Moving to slide 31, the department also has made improvements to the garnishment process and provided training to the payroll department so that we could minimize and mitigate those areas where there was potential financial liability for the city. Moving to slide 32. Just a moment. The Finance Department also drafted and/or provided comments for over 20 pieces of legislation and reviewed on over 100 pieces of legislation or bills from the 2021 session of the Georgia General Assembly. Moving to slide 33, this relates to the real estate, land use, and parks and rec portion of the Business Services Division. They reviewed over 150 pieces of legislation or bills for the 2021 session of the Georgia General Assembly. They assisted the City Council and Department of Planning with the development of legislation to enact the West Side Park Affordable Housing Overlay District, in keeping with the city's goal of providing affordable housing choices. Moving to slide 34, this department also provided support to City Planning Office of Housing and Community Development to create a form of a LURA, which is a land use restriction agreement, which is used to establish and record housing affordability land covenants applicable to developments in the Beltline, West Side, and West Side Park Affordability Zone Overlay Districts. They also advise planning with respect to provisions in the LURA to market affordable for sale housing units to qualified administrators, which will cause the units to be placed into land trusts to ensure long-term affordability. Slide 35, this department also assisted Planning Office of Housing and Community developing legislation to place vacant city land, 3 homesteaded properties and 1 commercial property with the Fulton Atlanta Land Bank Authority and Invest Atlanta to be developed into affordable and mixed-use housing developed. They also provided assistance in drafting legislation to authorize the city to enter into agreements with developer owners of properties subject to certain code enforcement liens to create or preserve workforce affordable housing units by requiring the construction of workforce affordable housing on abatement properties and making the housing available to qualifying individuals in exchange for lien cancellations. Slide 36. This group also drafted or provided comments to over 25 pieces of legislation, drafted over 15 leases, licenses, or other agreements, and prepared over 15 encroachment or easements. Moving to 37, the Public Safety Legislative and Special Initiatives portion of the Business Services Division supported APD license and permits team through the provision of legal advice and analysis and participating in the cross-departmental collaboration and coordination on nuisance property enforcement. This group also drafted new sections to the city code, which would establish violent conduct nuisance as a basis for finding property a nuisance if the owner or property manager fails to remedy conditions contributing to violent conduct or crime after being placed on notice. Slide 38, the work of this department helped to enable APD to increase nuisance property charges by 52% and increase due cost packages by 167%. They also reviewed and provided legal guidance on the GDI anti-gang task agency multi-jurisdictional effort to combat criminal street gangs across Georgia. Slide 39. They also, this group provided training to the Department of Grants and Community Development based on a new HUD Section 3 regulations, which require the use of best efforts to employ low and very low income persons on HUD-funded housing rehabilitation and construction projects. Moving to slide 40, this group actually reviewed approximately 165 public safety related bills for the past General Assembly session. Moving to slide 42, the Operations Division, under them you have Labor and Employment. Labor and Employment initiated a Lunch and Learn program to discuss the development of best practices for common labor and employment law issues. This Lunch and Learn was successfully completed on May the 10th with 5 HR professionals and watershed present. And this training will be conducted for other departments of the city. Moving to slide 43, the Labor and Employment collaborated with Human Resources to develop an employee lactation policy in light of changes in the applicable law. Initially, this was being done only for employees in E911, but was ultimately expanded to a citywide policy related to lactation. Moving to watershed, slide 44. The Law Department worked with the Department of Watershed to draft and successfully negotiate a new long-term intergovernmental agreement with the City of Hapeville for the provision of drinking water. And secondly, the United States Supreme Court ruled in favor of Georgia in the so-called water wars between Georgia and Florida. As you know, Atlanta was a cooperating participant in this particular legislation. The newest justice wrote that considering the record as a whole, Florida has not shown that it is highly probable that Georgia's alleged overconsumption played more than a trivial role in the collapse of Florida's oyster fisheries. Moving to slide 45, the Transportation and Taxation Division partnered with Watershed Legal Team to present Legislation 101, a comprehensive legislative training for 68 Department of, Watershed, but aviation staff members. They also provided training to 22 clients in ATL DOT, Public Works, and the Office of Revenue on our new legal services request form. This department also attended training provided by the United States Citizenship and Immigration Services for a SAVE program, tutorial, and recertification of the city's license. Moving to slide 46, the Transportation and Taxation Practice Group led the city's completion of the Federal Transit Administration Federal Fiscal Year 2021 certifications and assurances packages. These are required as a condition of receiving FTA grant funding for the city of Atlanta. Slide 47, the Transportation and Taxation Group reviewed some 76 House bills or resolutions and 13 Senate bills or resolutions for a total of 89 bills that they were responsible for reviewing. Slide 48, in terms of legislation, they drafted legislation to provide that appeals made by the administrative committees would be heard by the governing investment board instead of the administrative committee that made the initial decision. They also worked with the Department of Transportation to amend the parking management contract to reflect the impact of parking revenues as a result of COVID-19. And they also worked with Keep Atlanta Beautiful to help them overhaul the governance of the Keep Atlanta Beautiful Commission, drafting legislation to reduce the numbers of commission members to help the board meet quorum requirements. Slide 49, the License Review Board, the Transportation and Taxation Committee represents the APD License and Permit Unit before the License Review Board. And since January, the team has successfully represented the city's interests before the License Review Board, enabling the city to collect some $7,000 in fines and a total of 60 days suspension of licenses. And we give you some examples, including the Brooklyn Kitchen Lounge, which I believe that matter is on appeal now, a $2,500 and 20-day suspension for Monaco Hookah Lounge, $2,500 fine and 30-day suspension for Republic Atlanta on charges related to hours of operation and failure to supervise. They also were able to get $1,000 and a 5-day suspension for Ben Hill Package Store for charges related to furnishing alcohol to a minor and failure to supervise, as well as $1,000 fine and 5-day suspension for Chevron Food Mart on 336 Joseph E. Lowry Boulevard on charges related to furnishing alcohol to a minor and failure to supervise. Slide 51, the Aviation Practice Group, as I mentioned earlier, provided a 5-part trademark training to the Department of Aviation which we were able to get Georgia Continuing Legal Education hours for. Slide 52, they also provided training to secure expedited legislative approval for the city's consent to assignment of 5 airport contracts valued at approximately $100 million. And the Aviation Practice Group also worked with Department of Aviation to draft expedited concessions relief legislation that will allow the airport to work toward resumption of pre-COVID operations. Moving to slide 54, between January and March of 2021, the Litigation Division received 128 quiet title and interpleader petitions and filed 68 claims for payment, which resulted in recouping over $234,000 for water bills, property taxes, and other liens. The Watershed Division of the Law Department assisted the Department of Watershed in collecting $630,782 in delinquent water and sewer charges. Moving to slide 55, with respect to nuisance abatement, the Law Department assisted in obtaining ownership and collecting on liens or securing foreclosure orders on a total of 104 properties, and the city recovered $20,631 of available excess funds generated from a tax sale in an interpleader action. In that particular case, because the lien had been filed before the tax sale and had been perfected, and there was excess money from the actual tax sale, we were able to make a recovery from those excess funds. Moving to slide 57, for the third quarter, we maintained 495 pending claims. In terms of new claims, we received 188 new claims during this period, which is an average of 63 new claims per month. The claims team resolved 211 claims during the third quarter, which averaged to 70 claims per month. Slide 58, an update on claims and settlements. As you can see, the litigation settlement total, there was a total demand of $2,219,820. We ended up paying over that course $506,250. In terms of settlement, the demands were for $181,089. We ended up issuing payments of $56,000. Moving to slide 59, where we give an discussion of the various claims as they relate to the different departments. And what may be of interest to you all is one of the large settlements involved the fire department. It was a claim of sex discrimination and retaliation. And the former employee indicated the city had terminated her employment based on her sex and retaliated against her on that basis. While we had viable defenses, it was determined that it was more likely than not that a jury would find against the city, and it was in the city's interest to settle the case. So the case was settled for $185,000 with an initial demand of $885,000. In terms of the claims under both the Department of Watershed and APD, both tend to be largely comprised of vehicular accidents involving city employees, where city employees were responsible. Okay. Moving to slide 60, we've gone over that, so we can move on to slide 61. Our outside counsel spending to date, we have spent a total among the enterprise as well as general fund of $7,474,957, which is a slight decrease from last year this time. The decreases were found largely in the aviation fund, with some decrease in the watershed fund. However, the general fund continues to grow with several matters, including some water sewer cases, matters related to the 2020 summer protests, one-time fence occurrences such as the Kemp lawsuit, the disparity study, and the independent review of the Office of Contract Compliance. And so now we move to slide 62, and I'm available for any questions.
Okay. Does anyone have their hand up? I'm not in the system right now. Does anybody have their hands up? Mr. Hillis, or anyone have their hands up?
Madam Chair.
Yes, who's speaking?
Council President Moore.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Moore.
Yeah, I just had a quick question, and I've been in and out, so I may have missed it. What is our billing at this point on the Department of Justice investigation?
The total billing since 2006 is at $31 million. The last quarter, we billed about $700,000, with those expenses being largely related to the hosting of documents by the Strickland and Sullivan firm.
And that was for the quarter, $700,000 for the quarter. Okay, so we're not at the $1 million a month clip that we used to be at.
No, we have worked very hard to substantially reduce it by developing our own in-house team that's been able to handle some of the production requests as we've received them. And so, yes, we are working real hard to get those numbers down, even as the investigation continues.
And the $31 million was from since what date? You said 2016. Okay. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Ms. Moore. Any other questions? Ms. Hickson, I want to say you have did a thorough report, as always. It's very thorough. Gives you a very insight into what your department is doing. Thank you for what all y'all do in the law department. We appreciate you. And we look forward to you the next quarter. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you.
All right. Thank you. We're now going to move on to our consent agenda. We will now take claims for favorable and unfavorable recommendations. I'm going to ask for a motion to accept all favorable claims, and these are items 1 through 4. Is there a motion?
So moved.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Bond. Is there a second?
Winslow, second.
Thank you, Ms. Winslow. Ms. Lindo, we're ready for the vote.
One moment, Madam Chair. The vote is open. The vote's closed at 6 days, 0 nays. Those items are favorable. Madam Chair?
Sorry. Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't realize my phone, my button was muted, and I'm just talking. We will now move to items that are unfavorable. Those are items 5 through 29. Is there a motion?
Move approval.
Winslow. Okay, and there's a second by motion by Winslow, second by Bond. Ms. Lindo, we're ready for the vote.
The vote is open, Madam Chair.
Thank you.
Hey, Mom. Hey, sweetie. How you doing? I'm okay. I just finished giving my report.
Please mute your phone if you're not talking.
Will everyone please vote? The vote is closed. 6 yeas, 0 nays. Those items have been adversed.
Thank you, Ms. Lindo. We're now at ordinance for first read, and I believe we have one ordinance for first read. Ms. Lindo, would you sound that ordinance, please?
Yes, Madam Chair. Ordinance 21-004-07, and an ordinance by Public Safety and Legal Administration Committee authorizing the mayor or his designee to amend the lease agreement with the Retail Property Trust and Massachusetts Business Trust for approximately 1,797 square feet of office space located at 3393 Peachtree Road, Suite 2016B, at Lenox Mall, Atlanta, Georgia, for the Department of Police Zone 2 mini precinct for a 3-year term commencing retroactively on January 1st, 2021 and ending on December 31st, 2023, and authorizing a lease rate not to exceed $1 per year, waiving Article 10, Section 2-1546 of the Procurement Code of the City of Atlanta Code of Ordinances, and authorizing the expenditure to be charged to and paid from accounts listed herein and for other purposes.
Thank you, Ms. Lindo. I believe we can just accept that as the first read. Do we need to vote?
That's correct, Madam Chair. No, that's correct, Madam Chair.
All right, thank you. We'll now move into our regular agenda, ordinance for second read. Ms. Lindo, would you sound number 2, ordinance for second reading?
Yes, Madam Chair. That's ordinance 21-0336. This is an ordinance by Public Safety and Legal Administration Committee authorizing the settlement of all claims against the City of Atlanta in the matter of Asa Fain, appeal of a decision of an administrative officer, application number V-20-116, before the City of Atlanta Board of Zoning Adjustment to revoke the special use permit U-1601 previously granted by ordinance number 16-1124 pursuant to the settlement authorized hereby and for other purposes.
All right. Are there any questions in terms of this particular legislation, or would anyone want to speak on this? If not, can we get a motion to approve? And I'll second this. I'll make a motion to approve. This is in my district. I'm kind of out of the way slow. Yeah, and now I'll motion to approve. This is something that is really relevant to my district, and so second, I'll motion to approve and second by Ms. Winslow. We're ready for the vote.
The vote is open, Madam Chair.
Please vote.
Councilmember Bond?
Aye.
The vote is closed. 68-0 nays. That item is favorable.
Thank you, Ms. Lindo. We're now, we have 2 walking papers. Either one of those are ordinance. Both of those are resolutions. Is that correct?
That's correct, Madam Chair. And we'll take those, after the regular agenda.
Okay. So we'll now move to resolutions. And so we're now at resolutions number 3. Can you go ahead and sound that, please?
Yes, Madam Chair. That's 21R-3603. That's a resolution by Public Safety and Legal Administration Committee authorizing the reemployment of City of Atlanta retiree police officer Lorenzo Stripling in the Atlanta Police Department for an annual compensation not to exceed $71,468.80 pursuant to Section 3-505B of the Charter of the City of Atlanta and for other purposes.
All right. Are there any questions in reference to this legislation? And if not, I will entertain a motion.
So moved.
All right. Mr. Bond has made a motion. Is there a second? I'll second. We're ready for the vote, Ms. Lindo.
The vote is open, Madam Chair.
All right. Ms. Winslow, how do you vote?
In favor.
Thank you.
The vote is closed. 68-0 nays. That item is favorable.
Thank you, Ms. Lindo. We're now at item number 4. Would you sound that, Ms. Lindo?
Yes, Madam Chair. That's 21R-3604. The resolution by Public Safety and Legal Administration Committee authorizing the settlement of all claims against defendants in the case of Daniel Mathis versus City of Atlanta, civil action file number listed herein, pending in the State Court of Fulton County of Georgia, in the amount of $16,500 and authorizing the settlement amount to be charged to and paid from accounts listed herein, and authorizing the Chief Financial Officer to distribute this settlement amount and for other purposes.
All right. Are there questions or is there a motion?
Move approval.
Thank you, Mr. Bond. Thank you, Ms. Winslow. This motion by Mr. Bond, second by Winslow. We're ready for the vote, Ms. Lindo.
The vote is open, Madam Chair. The vote is closed at 68-0 nays. That item is favorable.
Okay, thank you. So now we have two walk-in pieces of legislation before us. There's one from the Law Department, and I think one from the Mayor's office. I think it was a claim. Ms. Lindo, can you sound that legislation, please?
Yes, Madam Chair. That's Resolution 21R3610. It's a resolution by Public Safety and Legal Administration Committee authorizing the settlement of all claims against defendants in the case of Winter Johnson Group, a joint venture versus the City of Atlanta civil action file number listed herein, pending in the Superior Court of Fulton County of Georgia, in the amount of $2,625,000. Authorizing the Chief Financial Officer to charge and pay the settlement amount from the accounts listed herein, and authorizing the Chief Financial Officer to distribute the settlement amount and for other purposes.
All right. Can I have the department come and explain this one and let us know why we're doing this as a walkthrough? Ms. Hickson, are you there? Ms. Hickson? Or someone from the Law Department?
This is Nina Hickson. I'm here.
Okay.
Okay, your question was, I'm sorry.
Number one is the settlement, and then and why we're walking it in today.
It's a settlement. It's a matter that's been pending for a while, but it is our desire to get this resolved before the end of the fiscal year. And so that's the reason why we had it walked in.
Or she wants to go before the budget, this year's budget, not next year's budget.
Exactly.
So we have to walk. Right. Okay.
Exactly.
Are there any questions from my colleagues?
This is Councilmember Hillis. Will be the details of the case.
Thank you, Mr. Hillis.
This was the case involving the zoo parking lot and some construction that happened over there. There was some assertions that the city should have had to have paid for the delay that was caused by the tree appeals process. As you know, that took several months, and there was a settlement reached which resulted in some change to the contract. And so the dispute was whether the construction company was entitled to payment for that delay, or was it something that should have been anticipated? And so that was basically the dispute. And so we were able to resolve it with neither side, indicating that it had prevailed, but just that it was in the best interest of both. At the time that this matter ended, there was $1.7 million left in the retainage. So a lot of this will come out of what was already assigned to this contract.
Where does the additional amount come from?
There are various streams. Part of it, I believe, Parks and Rec, and other is non-departmental.
Thank you. That's all I have, Madam Chair, Madam City Attorney.
Thank you. Ms. Smith, you have a question?
No, it's not really a question. It's a statement. I know we're fixing to vote on this, but I disagree with all this. I could go on, and I'm not going to. But I guess I will ask, why did we not fight this in court? Because this was not the city's fault.
We did. We did fight. if you recall, council member, the demand in this case was for $5 million. And so essentially the settlement was, we got to the point of, we were in arbitration, we were at the point of discovery, and the parties determined that the money could go toward that or go toward trying to resolve the matter. I could go into more detail that I think would be appropriate offline.
Okay, yeah, maybe. Well, the whole thing just aggravates me to no end, and so I may not even want to talk to you about it. But I'll. And the thing about the end result with this, though, is that we will have to pay it off with the bond that we're going to pay off the parking, and so it's going to be like a 30-year thing, but still, we would be able to pay off the bond, you know, I don't know, 2 years quicker or whatever if we didn't have to pay this. And they didn't do an RFP for this company, so I'm just going to say that too. And then I will hush, and we can vote on this, and I will not hold this up any longer.
Well, I think we could discuss it in executive session if that would be helpful.
No, I'm done, y'all. I'll even make the motion to approve.
Thank you, Ms. Smith. Is there a second?
Winslow, second.
Okay, go ahead, Ms. Winslow, second. We have a motion and a second, Ms. Lindo. We're ready for the vote.
The vote is open, Madam Chair. Councilmember Bond?
Mr. Bond.
I abstain.
Thank you. Okay, the vote is 5 yeas, 1 abstention. The motion carries. Thank you. Ms. Winslow, Ms. Lindo, we'll now move forward with our other walkthrough resolution that came in.
Yes, Madam Chair. This is a resolution 21R 3611. This is a resolution authorizing the mayor or her designee on behalf of the City of Atlanta to execute an intergovernmental rental agreement with the Board of Regents of the University System of Georgia for the lease of space located at 1630 Metropolitan Parkway Southwest, Atlanta, Georgia, consisting of approximately 20,359 usable square foot, building 500, third floor, 3,222 usable square feet, building 700, first floor, with 2,409 usable square foot, building 700, second floor, for temporary use as the Atlanta Police Department Training Academy for a term of 1 year, commencing on August 1st, 2021, and ending July 31st, 2022, with an option to renew on a year-to-year basis for 2 consecutive years, authorizing a monthly rental rate of $25,000 with an annual escalation of 2% each renewal term, and authorizing the expenditure to be charged to and paid from accounts listed herein and for other purposes.
Thank you, Ms. Lindo. Let me speak to this. This is something that I knew had been working on, but wasn't sure when it was going to actually come to us, and it just came today. It's really ironic that it came at the same time the legislation that I also introduced legislation that's going to be not before this committee, but before FEC, in terms of the build out of the police and fire academy over on Key Road. And that is going to be in the FEC committee this coming Wednesday. So it didn't come to public safety, but I just want you all to know, public safety committee members, to know that there is legislation to talk about a lease agreement, because we own the property, the land over on Key Road, in terms of actually beginning to look at the whole process with the Atlanta Police Foundation. There's funding in place to begin that build out. So the first step is actually talking about negotiating a lease with the city of Atlanta, with the Atlanta Police Foundation, and actually coming up with a plan of how he's going to build it out. In the meantime, as you all know, the police department and the fire academy has been in my district for quite so many years, and both of them have been at an old school that are just in horrible conditions. The fire department, as you heard the fire chief say earlier, Fire Chief Rob Smith say, is that we have to move them out. I mean, it got to the point that the mold and mildew, it was just to the point that was not environmentally safe for them to be there at the fire academy. Right now, they're temporarily being getting ready to move into College Park, into a facility that are being leased to the aviation department and some other things. Guess what? The same thing is happening now with the police department over off of Southside Industrial Park. That building has gotten to a point it is so horrible that the police department can't be there any longer. The roof is leaking. There's so many issues there that they came to me about a month and a half ago and said that they were working to look at moving the police department. What they were able to do was negotiate with the Atlanta Metropolitan College on Metropolitan Parkway to actually lease a lot of that property. Lease the space to them until we can begin to look at what's going to happen with us building out a police academy. So here we are today actually asking for support in terms of this negotiation to build out, begin a resolution with the mayor to make this issue happen. It has an IGA that also goes with it, but to actually look at this and to support and do this. I would say to you all, we need to do this. We can't talk about our police and fire department and supporting them when they're even in terms of their training facilities and recruiting people, when we don't even have decent space to train and recruit people into our academies. So both of these are temporary, but in particular, the police department is temporary in Atlanta Metropolitan College. And I'm asking for your support, but we've got to figure out, ultimately, we've got to begin to talk about building out a permanent academy for our police and fire department. So my motion is to approve. Any questions or concerns?
Second.
There's a second by Mr. Bond. Any questions? Ms. Linda, we're ready for the vote.
The vote is open, Madam Chair.
All right. Ms. Winslow, how do you vote?
In favor.
Thank you. Ms. Smith, I see you have your hand up.
Yeah. What is this? Does this have anything to do with the property over on Key Road?
No, this doesn't have anything to do with the property on Key Road. I was just referencing that as an example because what's happening right now, as I was saying just a moment ago, is that we now have both of our training facilities. We have no place for our training facility folks for a regular basis. So what we're doing now, we've already done that, as the chief said earlier, fire department, we're having to move them out of both buildings because we don't have any viable buildings with the city. So we're now moving them into a new location temporarily until we can figure out when we're going to get a fire academy built out. That's for the fire department. So that's where they're moving to College Park, and they're saying they're going to be moving in within the next 2 to 3 weeks. Now the same thing is getting ready to happen with the police academy. That building is so bad that they are actually having to move the folks out of there because it's not safe to be in there anymore. So I'm just using this example how I tied it in with Key Road. It's the same also, and so we can support voters. All we're doing today with this legislation is really saying this is a resolution talking about the agreement and in terms of the call to rent the space out at Atlanta Metropolitan College. But what I've also said, and I just want you all to know in terms of just letting you understand it, at the finance meeting on Wednesday, there's also legislation that was introduced that talks about the beginning process of actually the build out of the academy on Key Road, Ms. Smith, that will actually talk about a lease with the Atlanta Police Foundation and the city in terms of a lease agreement to begin the process of leasing that property out and also coming up with the plan. So I'm just tying the two together. This is an example of why we need to do both.
So this is a rental agreement with the place that they're fixing to move to now?
Atlanta Metropolitan College, yes.
Okay.
It's for one year, and then after 1 year we'll leave, and then we'll have opportunity to be renewed for another year.
Okay. All right. Thank you for clearing.
Until we figure out what's going to happen with our academies.
Okay. Thank you for clearing that up for me.
All right.
And I just voted.
All right. So, and I see we have 6 yeas. That means the motion carried. Thank you all so much. Thank you for everything. And so, do we have anything else for us, Ms. Linda? We have any other held papers?
Not that I'm aware of, Madam Chair.
All right. Is there anything else for the good of the body that we need to talk about?
Madam Chair?
Yes, sir. Mr. Bond.
Just a suggestion that at some point that this committee, the council, and the Board of Education probably needs to sit down and look at how we are, providing services not only to the youth in the city, but the structure in which we're providing the basic services to certain portions of the population. When I got calls about the crime at Lenox Square, and of course there's crime everywhere, it is, we're in the midst of a tremendous crime wave. When I learned that the perpetrators of it were only 15 years old, armed and dangerous, presenting themselves, really at the point where they would face the most opposition, in the commencement of a crime, right there at the security checkpoint at the front door. It's such a brazen crime that I don't think that someone who might have been older and more mature may not have attempted it. Probably the exuberance of youth, might have spurred it on. But the point being that, every year in and year out, when school lets out in the summer, the crime increases in that segment of the population. Despite whether Camp Best Friends is in or there's a summer jobs program, it's still not quite enough. And of course, when school is not in for large segments of our population across the city, for those who are either below or at the poverty line, there's a source of nourishment and meals that's eliminated. And of course, if they're not attached to another, program, then, they don't eat. And so there's a desperation that people are placed in due to that fact. I'm not saying that, I believe that at some point, the way that we've done business as a city and the way the school system has done business as a school system needs a review and a change. Because when young people are required to be in school, they're required to be there. There's a benefit for them being there, particularly those at or below the poverty line because of some of the things that I mentioned. They can get at least 2.5 meals, a day. They're there in a place where they can be held accountable. The way that we provide summer jobs, there might be a better way to do it, year round, as opposed to just during the summer. Maybe could be some point of greater integration. But I think that we have reached a point in this city that the way things have always been done, they need a sobering review. And I would humbly ask if you would, consider as chair, having some of those conversations with some of our counterparts. Because, something's just got to change. Thank you.
Oh, thank you, Mr. Barnes. It's really ironic. I was in a meeting last Thursday with judges, Fulton County DA, the Sheriff's Department, Police Foundation, repeat offenders. That's another report that this committee needs to look at, repeat offenders, and just astronomical numbers in terms of that. But and Chief Ryan was there, and one of the things that he talked about in terms of, not only repeat offenders who are egregious, but he talked about the need in the city. And one of the needs he talked about very specifically, other than repeat offenders, is that we have to do something about our youth. And I remember at another meeting, it wasn't this meeting, there was one meeting, I've been in so many public safety meetings, so I can't remember, they're not always publicly here. But he literally talked about the fact that we need to really be wrapping our hands around our youth on the streets right now. So when you talk about the food program, I know for a fact that the city of Atlanta receives a huge amount of money to do food distribution. I know there are churches and organizations that are doing summer camps in my community right now. They've applied through the city's food program to actually get food to feed kids throughout the summer. And they actually, and I was just with a meeting last week that one of these churches in my community said, I just got a grant from the city to feed our kids for the summer camp. So we're doing all these things. But I will also say to you, just like we talk about pre-arrest diversion and saving our people on the street, we got to do a better job of reaching out to our youth and the parents. And that's one of the things that Chief Ryan was talking about in terms of really doing things with our recreation centers. I know our rec centers are there, but I've always challenged the rec centers and said, how are we marketing ourselves in the community? And are we doing a comprehensive job of reaching out to our youth in our communities and making sure that if they don't have anywhere else to go, they can come to the rec centers. They can get a breakfast, they can get a lunch, and they can get a meal in the evening time before they go home. In addition to doing wraparound services for them, it would keep them off the street and keep them out of trouble. And then he also talked about that in reference to not only just our rec centers. We have now the At Promise Center, but we also have the Boys and Girls Club. We have the YMCA and Atlanta Public School System. The Atlanta Public School System, they're doing summer programs also, and I think they're getting some funding in food also. But Mr. Bond, you're absolutely correct. That's a whole nother project that we got to look at in terms of how we all are in silos and doing things differently, but we're not looking at this comprehensively enough. And these are the kids that are 13, 14, 15 years old that are actually on the street doing horrible things, and we need to look at it much more comprehensively and talk about that together in terms of how we do that. So I hear you, Mr. Bond. I do.
Yeah, thank you, Erica. My point, it really mentioned the school system is all these other programs, they are out there and they are available and they are underused. But with these kids, at least until they're 16, they have to go to school. I mean, the law compels them to be there. So if there was a way to integrate, these programs with the school system demanding attendance or requiring attendance, during the summer time when we have these spikes, and we've had these spikes forever. Every year it's just become so mundane and routine that, we just sit around and say, the crime's going to go up because it's the summertime, with the youth. And it just doesn't have to be that way. So I hope we can do that, We can begin to have these kinds of things because, our school year is really based on a agrarian calendar, a farm calendar. And, nobody's farming during the summer anymore, having to go back down, back to the farm to help out. So, it might be time, I think we need some real structural change in our system so that we can catch these folks who follow through the cracks.
Well, thank you, Mr. Bond.
And Madam Chair, I'd just like to just chime in for a second because, both of you are correct. And we need our state partners with us. because, you know, the state mandates that, as Mr. Bond says, that young people at a certain age, I think they raised it from 16 to 17 years old, have to be in school. And so, but we've got to have our state partners with us. When I had somebody break into my house, I don't know, it was 7 or 8 years ago, when I went to juvenile court, the thing that concerned me is that there were people in the court, you know, and these young people, they were 14 and 16 years old, and they were just on a crime spree that morning for about 3 hours, where they had stolen several cars and robbed 4 houses, including mine. So all of us, the victims, were in the court together. And so the churches were saying, you know, we would like to mentor with these young people. And so, you know, there was no avenue, I don't think, for the judge to do that, maybe based on some kind of state law, that maybe he could not mandate those young people to be in a program. And so they were sent back home into the same negative environment that they had come out of. And that doesn't help our young people. You know, they need to be able to have an alternative situation where they can have choices, okay? And I think when young people have choices, I think most of them are going to choose the positive as opposed to the negative. And so we've got to have our state partners in there with us as well. So, good conversation.
Well, Ms. Winslow, you know, you and I, we go to all these conferences all the time, and we're always talking about this state. A lot of times it's unfortunate, and I'm going to try to get off the soapbox just in a few minutes, but a lot of times, you know, everybody looks at the city and says the city has to do something, but there are layers of stuff that is happening with our youth, and even in terms of the crime, that is not all driven by locking people up and the police and doing what we have to do. A lot of these kids on the street, what you just said, Ms. Winslow, is on point. If you follow them home and their life stories and what's happening to them in terms of their families and stuff, it is so deep. And so they don't have a support system around them. So they're out on the street, they're doing a lot of different things, which goes back to now we need to be looking at it not only from, and some of them have mental illness, and mothers, fathers may have mental illness and social problems and health problems, and people, and then they don't have no money to survive, so they just out there just doing whatever needs to be done. So all these issues bring into light the fact that these are all these systemic problems that are cultivating into robbery and kids on the street selling water and doing all these things. We have to really begin to talk about a holistic approach in terms of how we're going to deal with this. And it just can't be, okay, we just got to go to APS. APS needs to be at the table. The state needs to be at the table. Fulton County needs to be at the table. The city needs to be at the table. All these social service agencies need to be at the table. We need to be all talking about how can, and this is going to take a while because this has been something that's been so ongoing, and it's just layers of it. How do we approach it? So I'm going to stop talking now. I'm going to stop talking because we could go on and on about this, and I want to get us off the phone. But I agree with everything that you and Mr. Bond is saying. So to that point, that's all I have to say. There is one other thing I want to add. We are also talking, I was talking to some folks this morning, as we began to have this conversation about the police academy, and there is a lot of conversation, I would just say to you all about there's a group of folks who are, you know, the police academy out there, we have 300 acres of land, and there are some folks who are kind of upset and saying that we should be cutting down the trees, and we need to save all of that for green space and move the police academy somewhere else. I've never been out to the police academy to Keys Road. Some of y'all may know from way back when. But what I said this morning was that I need to go out there and do a tour of what do we have out there on Key Road. And so I was talking to the administration and suggested to them that we may want to do a tour of the proposed location for the academy. I want to see how many trees are really out there. I mean, it's supposed to be sitting on all of this land. So I just need to go out there and look and see. And so we're going to probably be doing a reach out, a recommendation. If people want to go and do a tour, we may have some tours of the future, what is contemplated on Key Road as an academy. And then some people even ask us, well, why don't y'all go show some of these people what the old academy looks like so that people will understand why we need to go ahead and build out a new academy. So I'm just letting you all know that we'll be looking at both of those particular things in terms of tours again. So just look out for it. If you're interested, just sign up. All right? That's all I have. Anything else for the good of the body? If not, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Well, Madam Chair, when we take the tour, take some flowers, because that's where Willie B. is buried. Out there, Hero.
Oh, is it? I see. I didn't even know that. Okay.
That's right. So we'll bring some.
I didn't know that. Okay. All right. So just look for it, okay? All right. Thank you all so much. Motion to adjourn. Is there a second?
Second.
Oh, all right. Thank you all for coming today. I appreciate it. Y'all have a good one.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
All right. Bye-bye.
Good meeting.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.